Hello and welcome. On behalf of the Queermonge Institute, its board of directors, advisors, volunteers, and supporters, I want to welcome you to our continuing Q&A lecturing series. It's within the mission of the Institute to expand our own experiential research with the academic understandings that are available to us today. Dr. Goodman provided us a roadmap of how someone with a scientific approach can delve into the world of direct experience. And as you know, no educational institute can thrive alone, so we take an open approach. We invite scholars of parallel research and related fields to help broaden the scope of our research and our exploration. These last several months, our Sunday sessions have included topics such as neuroscience, anthropology, archaeology, and sacred sites, where science meets spirituality, the story of the universe, mass making in the ancient worldwide traditions, universal trance dance. We went into depth looking at the indications of trance states to better understand your experiences when you practice ecstatic trance postures. We had a wonderful interview on Catholicism, mysticism, and trance states, panel discussion on shamanism, the history of trance around the world from past to present, ancient astronomy, creating your own celestial markers, and the full spectrum of consciousness raising techniques. So that's been quite a journey and much more to come, including today. So as a global family, we're staying connected to each other. In these times, it's become very crucial. So on the positive side of things, we're using technology to expand our community and to expand our conversation. Today, we're continuing this core aspect of our mission of the Institute to introduce, sustain, and support the practice and research of trance states we believe were once widely enjoyed by early indigenous ancestors worldwide, to explore, rediscover the hidden potential of all that's available to us today in the human experience. So today, we're pleased to have very special guests, a panel discussion. And to introduce them, let me turn it over to Laura Lee, who happens to be my wife, who's the Director of Research, Outreach, and Development for the Institute. Hi, Laura Lee.
Hi, and thank you, Paul. We have an exciting conversation here today. And the point of this is that for the last 6 months, we have been conducting our ecstatic trance posture sessions over Zoom with people from all over the US and Canada, all over the South America, Europe, Egypt, Singapore, Australia, New Zealand. And we've heard this comment frequently. We are amazed that this can work so well, where we have common elements show up in trance, where we are truly bonding here in this shared trance experience, and yet we're scattered all over the globe. How is that working? And I had to think back to, effect at a distance. Isn't that one of the hallmarks of quantum physics? Can we truly invoke that? Regardless, we're not the only technology, I'd say this is an inner technology, for which effect at a distance works. I know that hands-on healing works with this. Reiki works with this. Many modalities work at a distance. And here we are practicing this, seeing this effect, enjoying this effect, and yet where's the science to validate this? Is it a bit behind? Because this is truly happening, and we're not the only ones. How does it happen? Is it that we in trance enter into another state where this ocean of energy in which the universe lives is more accessible to us? What wave are we riding? I often think of whales that are said in the depths of the ocean that they know to find that strata of the ocean where the salinity, the pressure, the temperature allows them to sound, and the sound carries for miles through the ocean. Are we, in effect, finding some layer of the energy spectrum where we can reach out and touch one another across distances? I don't know how this works, but it seems to me that we can learn more about this by talking with those energy practitioners who are also noticing effect at a distance is working. Their work works long distance. And also we want to ask, are they going into some kind of a trance state to do their work? We certainly have learned that of the artists that we've worked with ecstatic trance posture. They automatically enter into a state to tap into that creative zone. Is it the same with the energy practitioners? Are you going into a mild state? We hear from them that they do, in fact, have commonalities with ecstatic trance, and that would be heat, direct knowing, seeing, visioning, hearing. These are the hallmarks of being in a trance state. We'll ask them that question. And so today we've pulled together quite a panel. First of all, I want to mention that Christine Van Poel, an anthropological archaeologist teaching at the University of Missouri in Columbia, Missouri, she will be citing neurological studies, neurotheological studies that validate and just hint at science. She says science doesn't have all of the data, but we are certainly going to hear the bit that it does, and maybe encourage scientists to look more deeply into this phenomenon. She'll be joining us. Today we have Maria Dolzer, who does healing touch, a form of hands-on healing. And I'll say that Maria has been at the Queen Monkey Institute on several of our workshops that we've conducted, and in fact did a hands-on healing for Paul when he had a pang of something, a knee or something. She gathered us all around and she instructed us on doing a healing, and that knee healed up pretty quickly, I have to say. We also have Barbie Maraviov, who does Reiki, practitioner, and for many years, and she's describing how she thinks this works, and I thought, you've got to come in and join this panel. We have people a lot of practitioners of Reiki that join our work and have often said it's the efficacy of that led them to this work. If that works, why not this? And I think we're all tapping into something pretty special here. And we also have Joseph Goldfedder, who is an acupuncturist in New Jersey and is here to share how the meridians work and what he notices in his work with getting the chi or the ki to flow in someone, and how this also may correlate to why ecstatic trance postures works. Many people have said it must be you're hooking up and getting the energy flowing in this way. So this is our panel discussion, and we thought that we would start one by one with giving them 10 or so minutes to speak and state their case, what they do, what they've noticed in common with trance, and then we'll turn it over to discussion and your questions. And I thought we'd start with Maria. Hi, Maria, and welcome. You are in North Carolina. You have been a nurse in Germany and Austria, your home countries, for 35 years till you picked up Healing Touch. Tell us more about your work, and welcome.
Okay, hello to all of you. I'm happy to be here, and I'm happy to share my work with you. Yes, so it works. Can you?
It works.
Okay.
You have a slideshow to share with us that you'd like to, yeah.
Oh, wait a minute.
When you're ready.
Can you see my slides?
Not yet.
Not yet.
Not yet.
Yeah,
okay. Can you see it now?
Yes, it's coming. Very
yes,
nice.
There you are. Nice.
You're on slide number 2 right now. We can see you.
Yeah.
There's slide number 1. Okay.
So, is this okay?
Perfect.
Good. I'm glad you can see me. Okay. So I'm, as Laura said, I'm a Healing Touch certified practitioner and a nurse, and have worked for more than 35 years as a nurse, and I taught nursing in Germany and in Austria. And one of my focuses in teaching nursing was holistic nursing, such as hot bags and cold bags, and rhythmische Einreibungen, that's a German word. It is based on the anthroposophic philosophy and anthroposophic teaching, and it's very close to energy work. And I also taught healing touch in Vienna, in Austria, at the nursing school. So, but I'm also trained in reflexology, and I'm a Reiki master as well. That's to me. And what we are going to talk about today is what is healing touch, the different concepts behind a healing touch, and how does a healing touch session work, and what are the resources for that. So, healing touch was developed by Janet Menken, a holistic nurse from Denver, Colorado. She and her colleagues, I must say, developed healing touch, and the healing touch curriculum. It's a very sophisticated educational program that is also continuing education in nursing. She developed it in the 1980s already, so quite some time ago. And healing touch is an energy-based therapy where practitioners use their hands in a heart-centered and focused way to support and facilitate physical, emotional, mental, and spiritual health. Even so, it's healing touch. We don't always touch people. We can do it just by sending energy. Yeah, we can do everything off hands, do it in the energy field, because energy works this way also. And we work with the human energy system, like the chakras and the energy field. And the chakras, I think most of you are familiar with the 7 main chakras, like the root chakra, the sacrum chakra, the solar plexus, the heart chakra, the throat, and the third eye, and the crown chakra. Chakra is a Sanskrit word and means wheel, energy wheel. We receive energy, life energy, or some say chi, through the chakras, and we release energy through the chakras. And we also work with the energy field surrounding the body, which is, in some cases, it's called the aura. Here is a model from Barbara Brennan, a holistic healer, a spiritual healer. And she says that every chakra emanates an energy field. For example, the etheric field related to the first chakra, the emotional field related to the sacrum chakra, and so on. And these fields interpenetrate each other and the physical body. So it's not like a layer, it interpenetrates each other, but you can feel it. As a healing touch practitioner, you usually can feel it. This, in short, really in short, what is the theory behind it. There is so much more, but let's go on what we do in what physicists say about the energy field, because every organ and every muscle creates electricity. Otherwise, our heart wouldn't beat. And this here is a model of the electromagnetic field that emanates out of the human heart.
Looks like the planet's field too, doesn't it?
Yes, yeah. It's exactly like the planet's electromagnetic field. And this is a model, the electromagnetic field emanating out of the brain. The heart electromagnetic field is much stronger than the one of the brain. So this is a model James Oshman has in his book, Energy Medicine, the scientific basis. And let's go on to what we do in a healing touch session. In a healing touch session, I usually, in an in-person treatment, I do the intake interview, which includes relevant health issues, and we establish goals for overall health goals and what should be addressed in this particular session. And it is very similar to what you expect when you go to a physician. And but we include the emotions and how you feel and what you think about your particular problems. Mm-hmm. Then the client transfers to the table, fully closed, with a light blanket, and I assess the energy field, the chakras, and the electromagnetic field around, or the aura around the body. I assess the chakras with a pendulum and the aura with my hands. Then, based on what I find in the energy field and from the chakras, I choose a technique, healing touch technique, like magnetic clearing or chakra connection or scatter method. It really depends what I find, because we have a variety of techniques for different issues. And when I'm done with the treatment, I do the post-treatment assessment, the chakras and the energy field, and then I discuss my findings during the treatment, what I found in the energy system, and the client gives me feedback what he or she felt or how it was for them. And then we set goals for the future. Does the person want to come back? Are there more treatments needed, or is one session enough?
Gotcha.
And according to COVID, I just don't feel comfortable having people coming into our house, because I work from our house, and we both work at home. So distance treatments are just the state of the art right now for me. And I have done distance treatments for more than 10 years now, because my clients from Germany, they were not very happy when I left Germany. So I offered them distance treatments, and I still have clients in Germany and in Austria, and it works very well. So what I do usually is I do the intake on the phone, and then when this is done, we hang up, and I do, the client relaxes in their home, mm-hmm. in a chair or whatever is more comfortable for them. And I do the pre-treatment assessment just like I would do if the person would be in front of me, the chakras and the energy field, but I don't do it on the phone. And then I do the technique needed. And after that, I do the post-treatment assessment. Mm-hmm. And then I call my clients, or I text them just to wake them up a little bit more gentle rather than calling. And then we discuss my findings and how the client felt, what the experience was for the client. And I usually get the feedback that they were very relaxed, that they feel totally energized. And some clients say, oh, I felt a wave of energy going through me. And did you work on this part of my body or on that part of my body? And it is correct. And some people can see colors. Like one client said, oh, I had an image of so beautiful colors like the rainbow, or it was blue or orange or whatever. And they feel energized. And what I really advise my clients is they should drink a lot of water afterwards, because what healing touch does, it releases a lot of toxins.
Can we see you, Maria? Can you stop the slide so we can see you while you talk? Yeah.
Was that your last slide?
Sorry, I just want to see you. So, yeah.
Let me see. Okay.
Okay.
You got
it was not.
Cancel share. At the top of the screen, it will say cancel.
Are you?
Yeah. Stop. Okay.
Oh, much better. Okay. So are you actually moving your hands over an image, or what are you doing when you're doing the work? How is it?
That's a good question. I can do it by visualizing and focusing directly on my client, or I can do it. I have, let me get an image. I'll show you.
Okay, because as you were talking, I was thinking, oh, isn't this energy medicine of the future? Is it already here? Because you think of something like Star Trek, and you're thinking, well, it's soon we will have devices where we can see energy and we can read the energy of somebody, as in the future that we can imagine. But then I'm thinking, we're already doing it, because we have the inner technology. If you're trained, or if you just have that inclination to do this work, to move energy around, to do this. But in Star Trek, they're not even doing it long distance. It's not like you're on a planet and you're working with somebody, far off planet. So I'm thinking, well, the future is already here in so many ways. And you've even done this in your hospital that you worked with, your nursing, whatever. Like, this is already integrated. But here's the chart. Okay.
I'm using. And what I do is I put the name of the client on, and then I use my pendulum on the image, because I have in my head, in my mind, I have the picture of the client. And I use my hand to assess the energy field, and I use my pendulum to assess the chakra. And going from there, and often I can say, oh, there is some issue somewhere here on this shoulder.
You're getting data through your hands over a piece of paper and image. That's fascinating.
Yeah.
Yes, and it works just fine. So it's really absolutely fine. And some people, some healing touch practitioners, they have a doll lying on the table, and they do it on the doll. I don't do this. I use my chart or just visualizing the client.
Wow.
And
so you are going into a trance. You must be going into a trance, that medium which you are receiving and transmitting energy and information.
Most definitely. It is a trance-like state, but it is very similar to the trance, to the Felicitas Goodman trance, because I'm fully focused on the client. But at the same time, I can, I hear everything around me. It's really, it's very similar.
A foot in both worlds. Yeah.
Yes, I'm in both worlds. Very well said.
Yeah.
And it is really very beneficial. And some people think, oh, it's woo, but it is not. I've had clients over several years who call me, oh, Maria, I have a headache. Please, please do something. And as soon as I treated them, they say, oh, it's so much better. It's going down from a pain scale, like when it was on 8, it's going down to 4 or to 2, or sometimes completely going away. And so
Wow.
No, I see.
the explanation, how these waves or whatever it is works is, may I share the screen again?
Yes.
Okay. So here, no, come on. Yeah. I have included some links.
Yes.
James Oshman explains it very well.
We'll get into theory here in a minute. I just wanted to kind of get a baseline on everybody's work, but let's save this for the when we talk theory. But go ahead with what you're saying.
Oh yeah, Schumann resonance. Go with that.
Oh yeah.
Resonance. It's one explanation. It's like Schumann resonance suggests that there is electricity. It's conducted by electricity, by lightning, and the waves go down to the earth and reflected back to the ionosphere, and from the ionosphere down to the earth.
Yeah.
And we plug into this. It's similar to that. But there are other explanations as well.
Yeah, we want to touch on all of this. But let's go. I want to thank you for describing your work and your trance state.
And then all the resources we posted on our website. Right?
Yeah, we have those.
So
thank you for that.
We'll provide a general link for everybody to see.
And thank you for having me. And it's very nice talking with you. And I'm really looking forward to the discussion.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Us too.
You're wonderful.
So
thank you.
That was a great description. And I'd say the medicine of the future is already here if you know where to look. But thank you.
I was going to mention, I'm going to mention that there will be some questions and things in the chat room. We're going to save some time for questions afterwards. So I'm not ignoring it. I can see some nice discussions already started in the chat room, and we will get to all of that as part of the discussion. But let's go to
the next panelist. Thank you, Maria. Okay. And we have Barbie. Maraviov. How do you say your name, Barbie? I'm mangling it. Sorry.
He's unmuting.
That's okay. It's Maraviov.
Maraviov.
Yeah.
Anyway, welcome, Barbie. Reiki practitioner. Thank you. So, tell us a little bit about why you got into Reiki and what you find similar to ecstatic trance postures, and we will get to theory here in a bit.
Yeah, so I got into Reiki as a receiver, I don't know, 20 plus years ago. And it really, I was going through a really difficult time in my life, and it really helped me sort of get through that time. And then, life goes on and blah, blah, blah. And years later, I decided to take a class, and Reiki is taught in multiple levels, 3 and sometimes 4 levels. And so I took level 1, which really teaches you how to, sort of channel the energy and allows you to practice on yourself and, and maybe some, family members or whatever. And then you go to level 2, where you're taught about the symbols, and there's many. I'm just going to kind of make it short. You're taught, symbols and mantras for bringing in bringing in different versions of the energy, and then you can go on to your master teacher level, which I have done, as well as Maria. So I just wanted to kind of give you a little bit of a background about Reiki. Okay. Maria did thank you so much, Maria. She did,
Good
She
job.
made my job easy because she did such a wonderful job of explaining how energy works. So my practice is very similar to hers, but since she didn't talk a whole lot about Reiki, I just wanted to give you a little bit of a background on that. So the founder, and I don't speak Japanese, so I'm probably going to butcher all kinds of Japanese names and things like that, but his name was Mikao Usui, and he lived in Japan and was born, I think, in like 1864, 65-ish. And he was, his ancestors were samurai. And he was into, when he was younger, martial arts and qigong and, you know, some other things, and eventually became a priest of a Tendai priest, and which is sort of a mix of Buddhism, Shintoism, Taoism, and shamanism. So his method that he sort of came up with, it was really more of, it was more rooted in enlightenment, in spiritual enlightenment. And a very nice thing that happened out of this practice of his was that he found that healing was happening. And so then he started sort of practicing this and then eventually teaching it to others. And there are many different offshoots of Reiki. They call them lineages. So if you go back to my teachers, there's a whole, you know, like, it's very traditional. There's a whole line of the people, and you should always sort of honor your lineage and, you know, things like that. It's very spiritual work, but it's also, I have a very curious mind, so I found that it was very, I was curious about the science of it as well. So I understand Christine's seeking of that knowledge. And it's, you know, it's connected to the quantum field and quantum physics and all of that stuff. And I couldn't explain all of it. I've read some books and gone to a workshop with Joe Dispenza. I don't know, Christine, if you're familiar with his work, but he's very into mapping the brain and what happens during meditation and where is all of this coming from. And it's very interesting work anyway. So Reiki is not really just it's not just a practice, it's a way of being. And so daily I do ritual. And so that's sort of like now connecting into how this is connected to the work that we're doing with you all in our trance meditations. So daily I do a ritual, clearing my energy, because it's really, really important to have the practitioner's energy clear so that the energy flows through your body clearly. So if you sort of think of it like a stream and there's a rock in a stream, that could be, you know, a blockage in your body. So then the water has to go around it. And then if there's more rocks, and, you know, pretty soon you've got a dam and the energy is not flowing. So every day I do ritual to clear my energy. Before I work with someone, I do ritual to clear my space. It's very important not to introduce other energies when you're going to be working with somebody. And then finally, when I'm working with someone, I'm clearing their energy so that there, you know, we're getting blockages out and all that. Because when you have blockages in your body, that's what causes pain and discomfort and disease. So it's important to have your energy flowing. And I'm sure that Joseph will get into that even more. So I won't step on that too much. So I do I do a daily ritual for clearing, and there's a space clearing, and then part of the ritual is calling in the energy, and so you can, the energy is passed from teacher to student, and it's called in multiple ways, with a symbol that you're given by your teacher, with a mantra that goes with the symbol, or you can call it in with sound. That's a little more traditional Japanese form, which I've been taught. So calling in the energy, but then in addition to that, as an aside, I have also, one of my teachers had a very shamanic flavor to the way that she taught.
Oh, interesting.
And I don't even think what's that?
I said, tell us about that, the shamanic part.
Okay.
Briefly.
Well, yeah. So, there is a group in Peru. Why am I drawing a blank on their name right now? I'm just completely drawing a blank. But they have a certain ritual that they go through where they give you these different bands of protection and, you know, things like that. Why can't I?
That's all right.
I'm sorry, I can't remember the name of it.
Reiki work. So what does that translate to?
I definitely do. Before someone comes into my space to work with, I always do a meditation, and that sort of starts that trance. And often in that meditation, I will get messages about the person, maybe what some of the issues that they might be having, and sometimes I'll get ancestors of theirs who want to come in and give messages, you know, different things like that. So I definitely am tapping into something other than the physical realm before I'm working with someone.
And it sounds very similar to the ecstatic trance posture work too, doesn't it? In terms of the download that you, or the experience in that trance. So
yes. And when I'm working, I always tell people, I don't know, I just get out of the way. And so so that's very similar with the trance as well. I just get out of the way and do what I'm told, basically. It's not me often who's sort of guiding how the healing is going to go. It's often something other than,
I love it.
than
spirits come in and do the work, and we're the recipients of it. You also said something interesting. When you enter spiritual realms, like the originator of Reiki had said, healing happens. And I think that's just so true, that you enter into that and healing flows, energy flows, information flows, heart flows. So I want to say that we have your website listed on that page, so anybody can contact you.
I'll show the page at the end.
Yeah, okay. At the end. Okay. So thank you so much, Barbie, for...
Yeah, and I wanted to say also similarities. I do, when I'm working, I get heat and or tingling typically. Sometimes my hands get super, super cold, which is very unusual for me. Typically it's heat and tingling. And then also I feel heat through my body. And it's very interesting because when I'm done working, my hands then go back to normal. So there's definitely something that's, in terms of the temperature of them. So there's definitely something happening with the energy and the heat that's coming through.
Mm-hmm. And we experience that so much in our work. And a different part of the body, just like,
it's a very common experience.
Indicator of being deep in trance. Mm-hmm. Yeah, wonderful.
Yes, and it's very interesting because you can use your hands, which is typically what we're doing, and like Maria, you can have hands on or hands off, or it works at a distance.
Yeah.
And I work very similarly to her. Typically, I do the whole thing. I do the ritual. You can do it with a picture or like what she did, a drawing, or just thinking of someone. Or I like sort of setting up, you know, with towels and blankets or whatever, sort of a person's body, you know, and then I work that way. For me, it
like
helps me connect.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it helps me connect in better with a reference for where things are on people.
Mm-hmm.
And often I'm asked to use sound or crystals. It's very interesting, the messages that I get on how to work with people. And when they're on the table, typically they'll feel, you know, heat, or if I'm pulling something out, you know, of them, they'll feel that, you know, that lighter or that emptiness of where some big, you know, blob of something was that was, you know, yeah, stopping the flow of their energy. So, yeah, it's super interesting. And there are, I think, many connections to the work that you all are doing.
Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you for that.
Mm-hmm.
Appreciate that. That was Barbie. And Joseph, you're next, acupuncturist. And I want to hear how your connection to the chi flow, the meridian flow, to add to this descriptor. It's just fascinating to hear how you guys work.
And the connection to the posture work that you've done with us as well, to see the connections, those overlapping, using the technology of your research helps us validate ours. So we appreciate that.
So thank you.
Again, I'm thrilled to be here. It's very cool to be asked to do this. So acupuncture is, you talk to any acupuncturist, you're going to get a different interpretation of what it is. I mean, it's so interesting that we all do it differently. I come from a fine arts background. I went to art school. I thought this is what I was supposed to do. And then I kind of stumbled into acupuncture later. I've been practicing about 14 years now. I initially practiced what we called community acupuncture, social justice movement that kind of started in Oregon, Portland, Oregon, where group treatments making accessible to many people at affordable prices. And that was interesting dynamic, is that the chi sensation is like group chi in a room, because you have people reclining and dozing together. And there was a palpable sense of energy in the room that you came in as if you're walking into a trance, and then you step into it with the group. I did that for a number of years, and I came east, where I work in a very traditional world with medical doctors, chiropractors, physical therapists. And it's interesting, we work together, each with our unique modalities, and how they all kind of build, integrate, and work together. So that's the kind of where I'm at now, working in that facility. So acupuncture is, I find, I didn't realize it until I started doing this work, how similar it is to trance. When I do work with someone in a room, I have music, I have sound of waves, I have lighting, and then I realize the waves are almost like Paul's rattle, creating a rhythmic sense. The people, I think they go down just as we do in trance. I can see the respiration changes, or if they're in pain, it kind of subsides, the breathing changes, and I can see almost like their eyes roll in the back of their head, and they're gone. And just what Barbie just said is like, my job is kind of get out of the way. I would tend, as earlier when I was a younger practitioner, to do everything, and I still have to struggle. Like, okay, less is more. Do a few things, get out of the way. I am the facilitator, and my job is to give them their experience at like a trance to go in. And it's surprising the types of people that different, like I've had elderly people in their 80s or 90s and say like they're seeing colors, and this is very odd to them. And I'm, oh, that's great. And they're like, kind of weirded out about it. But, with the work, it just kind of lends itself to, people say, I can't relax, but they find they're literally pinned down to a table.
So they're in a bit of a trance as well.
They're in a bit of a trance as well. And I think sometimes I don't know if I'm in a trance, or some in and out maybe, because sometimes like I have a place to start, but I kind of almost hear the points to do. And then I sometimes there's a little bit of talking. I try to get the talking done as quickly as possible, because it's not a talk therapy, but people like to talk. And then sometimes you
flows too then, huh?
Yeah, ebb and flow. And that can allow, the talking can allow, you know, maybe I'll say one thing, like the idea of thought can change everything, perception. Someone will say a thing and I go, maybe that's not the best, like people say, I hate this leg, or I want to cut this leg off. So, well, maybe let's think about like not, you know, how else could you, his leg is dead. Like, well, maybe it just needs some more attention, and just introduce
energy flow. Yeah.
the ideas with that. And to build upon what Maria said and what Barbie said, so I work with meridians, like the idea of energy channels that run throughout the body, that begin and end on the hands and the feet, where the chakras are wheels of energy that run through the body, and I believe they extend beyond the body, on the hands, feet, and below, deep into the earth, that connect us to the earth. Mm-hmm. But the meridians are like, I think of them like a railroad train, like a railroad track, energy lines that run. So, you know, if someone has shoulder pain, I think about what meridians are they, what meridians are out of alignment, what's blocked. Energy, when energy is blocked, has been said, is pain, it's stagnation. It can be severe, like just with blood stagnation, or we look at it as chi stagnation or blood stagnation. Or it could be dampness, or it could be external coming inside, like the weather patterns, like a common thing now, we call it bee syndrome, where there's a lot of weather-related pains. Pains increase because of the dampness here on the East Coast.
Because we're so sensitive to our surroundings that way.
We are sensitive, and just the weather affects us, gets inside of us. We're an ecosystem, biosphere. We get affected by that. So palpating, finding the meridians that are painful, and the little needles they're very, very fine. It's like superficial aspects of the body. Energetically, they go deep into deeper energetics of the body. So just accessing this, we call like finding a landmark that's, you know, palpating an area that's sensitive.
I like what you said, as an artist, I draw, and as an acupuncturist, I'm drawing the energy here and there. I'm guiding it to.
I almost think of people like clay. Like my job is to shift the clay a little bit. It's like stuck here. And like I expect it. People say, "I'm supposed to feel better right away." We're like, "Why not?" You know, let's go for it. So I do think of the creative aspect of moving energy like clay or drawing. What was that? So the energy flows through the meridians, and the meridians begin and end the hands and the feet, and they change. Yin and yang change like the fingertips. It ends there, so it's a very powerful meridian, like further away from the body. From the center of the body is the more powerful meridian, because people often expect when they have back pain, well, you're going to stick needles in my back. I go, no, not necessarily, depending on them, what's going on. And I find that I can do a more powerful treatment if I needle like distal areas of their head or their hands, and get them to fully relax. And then that energy further away pulls energy away and increases the flow further away, as opposed to just like sticking a needle right here where it hurts.
Okay. So speaking to people in this audience who are interested in trance and probably do ecstatic trance postures, when you say, so many people suggested that meridian work and energy flow and putting a hand here or putting a hand here, or because we're working with our hands on ourselves, right? That this is somehow stimulating a flow. That's one theory as to why this work works. What do you think, working so deeply as you do with meridians?
When people are getting needles, I don't want them moving around that much, because it's like torquing. It's like needles get twisted in the fibers and it can be painful. But yoga or qigong or tai chi, I mean, the whole back meridian can be stretched in the downward dog posture, opening up. It's all about opening up the channels, and you don't have to use a needle. You could do acupressure. You could do yoga, so it does work as well. It's just a different door to do the same thing.
And that's what's so fascinating to me about all these modalities is we have one design, one energetic, physical design of many, many layers. So whether you do Reiki or hands-on healing or trance postures or, it's all working on the same machine here, the same design, the same energy body, so you can activate it in various ways. So it's like I see these sister traditions, and like, yeah, of course they're working. What can we learn from each other? So
well, the idea just reminded me of trance is, well, the trance, we can go in different dimensions. We can go, I think we already are moving in and out of multiple dimensions anyway.
yeah.
But oftentimes people are stuck in the past. They're fixated on this idea of something that happened, and there's trauma replays in their mind. And I think with these modalities, any of the ones so far, including acupuncture, is a way to help people be present right now, bringing people to right now with the breathing and the body, mind, spirit in alignment. And I think that's a big part, one aspect of healing anyway. Just integrating things so people can be present. So then they can maybe see things in a different way, as a trance would help you see beyond your rut, the way you're thinking. This is the way things are right now. It's opening up different possibilities. Oftentimes that's one of the greatest joys, seeing people shifting their thinking. And I'm sure any
Getting to that flow as well. Yeah.
flow with thoughts and pain, physically as well as mentally.
Yeah. Thank you. So where is it that you practice, if anybody's in New Jersey?
Oh, I work in Toms River, New Jersey. Doctor's Row.
Yeah. Well, thank you for that. So appreciate that. And let me see. Anything you want to say in way of conclusion? And I want to thank you, Joseph.
Thank you.
Yeah. And Christine, you want to introduce Christine Van Poel, professor of archaeology. You have been looking at a lot of neurological studies that might shed some light on this and why it works. Before we get to theories and questions to the audience, do you want to cite a little bit of what you've been looking into? Because historically, first of all, let me say historically, the indicators are that our ancient ancestors knew all of this and had their own ways of activating all that we've been discussing today. From trance to hands-on healing to various techniques to getting energy to flow. What do you have to share with us, past and present?
Well, I always keep going back to Goodman. I actually found Goodman later, after I had already started doing research on shamans. But Goodman was one of the first people to notice that during trance states, brain waves are shifting and changing, and there's a physiological response to trance states. She was also one of the first people to go into the lab, look at these brain states with brain waves, and do blood work and blood pressure. And she noted stress hormones dropping and beta endorphins increasing, and that had to be related to whatever's going on with the brain. And so when she did her research in Germany in the 1980s and earlier, they didn't have as much brain mapping as we do now. And she talks about in her books that the brain maps with the EEGs are like an overall generalization of a brain function with brain waves. So she knew that it was doing paradoxical low wave but high voltage increase with trance state, which is really interesting. Coming up to modern times, we have all kinds of brain imaging studies being done where neurologists are now arguing about what's going on. It looks like some of the evidence with meditation increases frontal lobe activity, whereas other activities shifts blood flow from right to left brain phenomenon. There's some really tantalizing evidence with Piers et al. Who did Brazilian psychographic mediums, these people that go into deep trance states and they auto-write. So they're hearing what the ancestors of a person is saying and they're auto-writing. What's interesting about that is their brains are looking more like somebody with schizophrenia. And going to similar research by Andrew Nuremberg and others, those brains look exactly opposite of schizophrenia, which the old literature in shamanic study was this trance mimics schizophrenia, but now we know that it doesn't at all. So it's really curious. So we're finding different modalities are doing different things in the brain. So most of the neuroscience has been looking at individual practitioners with what they're doing. What the neuroscientists, at least, and I did a full run through, but it's not like you can go like Joseph, I like what he talked about. He could go into a room, he can feel people in a trance state. You can almost pick that up, and it's kind of not, this is not what he said, but it sounds like it's contagious or something like that. Goodman and her How About Demons with Spirit Possession talked about there must be some type of transfer. There must be something going across people. But in the lab, scientists haven't, at least with the neurology, with EEGs and a lot with the MRIs, they're not able to really, put a lot of people, you can't shoot a lot of people into a tube, right, with the MRI imaging. So it makes it really challenging. There's been some tantalizing evidence where they've taken people from Korea and putting the EEG caps on with electrodes and then looked at dancing shamans with altered states of consciousness. But the problem is that once you get somebody in movement, that can mess up the rhythms. But it does look like we can look at different activity areas shifting within these different modalities. So in the terms of anthropology, Michael Winkelmann is probably one of the best known neurotheologists right now. He has pulled together almost all the data from the neuroscientists and others. And some of the ideas he has is that the trance state is evoking a deep within the limbic system that's creating a synchronic brainwave across the three hemispheres of the brain to create a synchronic brainwave, which actually impacts the limbic system is our emotional, and then we have thought process in the frontal lobe, but it's pulling it all together, and at the same time something called serotonin is getting hit, where that's creating that feel-good and opioid system as well through the brain. And so those are all hypotheses, and they're in a big debate right now with whether Winkelmann's models work. And so they're looking at neurologically. Most people, when they think about Michael Winkelmann, they think about the brain activities, what he calls the tripart or the three-part brain working, and it does look like it's working across time. So there are some researchers, Michael Hove and other recently through Max Planck research, looked at 15 shamans, and they did functional imaging of MRIs, and they put these shamans in a tube, and they did the Michael Harner trance state, which is kind of like Felicitas one, but they rattle at 240 beats per minute. Mm-hmm. What's really cool about this research that Michael Hove and other did was they found that the shaman looks like their brain's disengaged, and while they're sitting there listening to a drum at 240 beats per second, it looks like there's no hearing going on. So it looks like they're doing something else, and that their brain is shifting, and just off the limbic system in the interior brain is lighting up in the imaging, and then it looks like it's waving out into the brain, and that supports, they suggest, Michael Winkelmann's research. So that's really tantalizing evidence. So again, lots of information. Andrew Newberg.
For you.
Yeah.
Okay. So first of all, you mentioned schizophrenia, and it's so interesting that the first Westerners who were looking seriously at shamans were saying this is a pathology. We're way beyond that, though. But there are some hallmarks that maybe could be looked at as dissociation. So we talked about a foot in this world and a foot in that world. That could look schizophrenic in a pathological way, where you're disconnected from reality. But in I think the shamanic and the healing world and the trance world, where it is, you're holding, you're in two worlds at the same time, simultaneous, which is a higher brain function. And so that's why we had Garrett Meyer, a brain mind researcher, work with us for a week. And he said, I don't know how ancient people could jumpstart this. Rather fascinating with such a simple ritual that you use. But it looks like you're asking two centers of the brain, waking and dreaming, to talk to each other. So, so there's higher activity going on, more activity than normal, but it's within the norm. We want to state very clearly, our mission is to say these states are very normal and accessible to all of us, given ritual and techniques to induce it. So it's within the realm of norm and healthy, underline underscore healthy. So how does that relate to Winkelmann's limbic synchronized? Because you're synchronizing different parts of the brain that usually in our normal waking state aren't talking to each other. Is that the idea that you're getting at?
Yes, that's the idea that Winkelmann and others getting at, that somehow the different activities in the brain are going on at different times, doing different things. So
and
yes,
that we have the capacity to tune in here, like Maria was saying, I'm here in this world, but I'm also in another world.
the world.
In another world. That is our trance. I'm here, but I'm also there.
Right.
Similar brain function. And it takes a healthy individual to maintain that.
Right.
So that's what I'm hearing. I'm here, but my boundary has lifted and I'm in an expanded state. Right. And it's not
Right. And then,
yeah.
absolutely. And so, Andrew Newberg, who's probably the most well-known neurotheologist, neuroscience guy right now, has done the most work and has worked with a lot of different labs and a lot of different people across the planet. He's saying that it looks like that somehow multiple things are happening in a very complex way, where one, the person in trance state is getting within the limbic system, really high emotional stuff, but at the same time, some type of organizational process is changing. So it takes that, so you have that sense of out in the other world, or something with space and organization shifting and changing in parts of the brain.
But we have the capacity to expand into that and to download this information from afar.
Or something's going on. And I think it's interesting because thinking about what Andrew Newberg and others say, they keep talking about the brain being the great receptor, and over you'll hear this great receptor takes in, and it's true, we takes in millions of pieces of data. Our brain does whatever it does and then outputs us, so we have a thought or a particular thing we're thinking about.
Output.
What? Yeah, but it's input, so we get a little snapshot of what we need to know. What you don't see all that often with them is they're talking about, and I like what Maria and Barbie and Joseph are saying, because it seems like the brain's also a great transmitter. It is also pushing out information potentially, although there was on a chat with electrical currency. Whoever wrote that chat earlier, I'm not in my chat right now. Yeah, it would be really hard to have the electrical impulses transferring very far. So there's something at work, and people have looked at electromagnetism, but how far can our brains really electromagnet, send out information? That's another interesting question. But again,
you could say I'm a healer working with a patient and I'm transmitting to move their energy around or do something with their energy field.
And that makes sense, when you're on an
distance.
Right, at above, but what happens when you go far away? Like you guys are saying, how's that? I don't know if we really understand how that's working from a scientific perspective.
And also something to do with I would also say, Paul, that when you're conducting this ritual, you are also holding a space and doing something, or whoever. I mean, we have many teachers around the world, and they all talk about it in a similar way, an energetic way that are so yeah, there's that too. So why don't we, thank you for that, Christine.
I just wanted, that was the neuroscience, but there are a lot of other science. Bernard Grad, since the 1960s, he's been looking at hands-on healers. Goodman cites one of his original 1965 work. And what's really fascinating about his work, he's a Canadian researcher, in labs with people holding rats, their hands do change, like what I think it was Barbie talking about, the heat and the cold, that they can, they don't know exactly what's going on, but there's some real strong evidence that's subjective that there are shifts occurring with rats. You may say, why rats? Well, because you don't have the placebo effect. It's not like the rat knows, hey, if I'm held by this healer, I'm going to get well. But yet the rats are improving in their health, which is really tantalizing that something is going on. And he has an array of chemicals, which I'm not going to get into, but he has like 35 articles. So there's a lot of research he's done with these hand-on healers. There's something happening, something going on.
Transmission.
Interesting.
Yeah. Maybe that, but also something that's transmitting long distance through that.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah.
I mean, it's a much more mysterious universe than we're giving it credit for. And yet, intuitively, we know how to work and use of this. And I'm wondering if the ability to heal is something that can be learned, or if it's just your gift or your propensity. Like they say with perfumers, to learn to distinguish 1,000 different aromas can be learned, but you have to be kind of gifted to go into it. So very interesting.
I think we can all learn to be our own healers. We are all healers. We just have to be aware, accept it, or acknowledge it, or listen to our body.
Right.
We all have that capacity. Yeah.
Yeah, and Michael Winkelmann, in his big book on shamanism and neurotheology, says the human is just really ready to do this. It can do it. Same thing that Felistus says. We're all have those abilities.
Mm-hmm. Yep. It's interesting.
It's one of the things.
Go ahead.
It's one of the things that we're taught in Reiki, or at least the last teacher that I worked with, is that energy is accessible by all of us. It's for all of us. We all have it. It's just a matter of the intention and accessing it.
I think what our world will be when science really embraces this, our society and our world, collective worldview embraces this and starts to utilize it as a whole. Should we go to the chat room, open up to questions?
Yeah,
This
so
has been a really
first of
great
all, if the guests
foundation
had an opportunity to read the chat room, there's lots of questions if you want to choose to answer some of those rather than, because there's a lot of discussion. There's also,
Do you want to just read through some of them?
well, some of them aren't questions, some of them are discussion. So if there's other
wonderful.
people with other experiences that are
We
adding to the
invite you,
discussion.
open up your microphone and go ahead
Well,
and.
by raising your hand.
May I just share one more thing? It's
Yeah.
from the Reiki source book.
Oh, okay.
The founders of the International House of Reiki wrote this, and I was reading up on, in particular, one of the symbols and mantras that we learn is for accessing the distance Reiki.
Oh, really? Oh,
And I found, yeah, that's very specific to that. And I found this, it's just 3 or 4 sentences.
okay.
A state of mind is created. It's a state of oneness with all things. Therefore, it is not about sending distance healing, but about becoming one with the recipient to allow healing to take place. It's not possible to send anything when one already is the energy, and that energy is universal. So I thought that was pretty, like spot on. It's maybe not that we're going somewhere. We're just connecting
We're already
with
there.
the oneness, with the quantum field, if you will,
Let's,
where everything,
Good way. I like that.
resides.
I'm gonna launch into some questions. Linda's got her hand up. By the way, those of you that are not familiar with the technology of Zoom, if you click on participant list, then you go to the very bottom of the list. There's a place to raise hands electronically rather than me having to jump around with 40 people trying to figure out who's got their hands up.
And while you do that, I just want to say that so often in our experience, we find that the bliss is there, the ecstasy is there, the energy is there. It's up to us to kind of open up to it because we have the free will. It's us just opening to it. We find that again and again.
Okay,
Yeah.
so Linda's on.
So, hi, Linda.
Hi. That's sort of my observation question here. I've been a little disappointed through this working online that I didn't have the imagination, the imagery, so forth, that I got when I was at Kuyamangay the 3 times. So I've been doing various things. My most recent is that I've been absent from you guys on Saturday because I'm listening to a person talk about witches and their background and so forth. And I'm just trying to perk up my imagination, you know? And I'm realizing as we're talking, the extent to which I use trance in my work. And I knew that, but it's coming in more to me right now. And I realized that I'm in this room where I do my work since 1984, 36 years, right? The trance that I'm in, the trance that people are in when they get worked with, which happens also, that's very codified for me. I know what I'm going to do without even thinking about it, and I tap into all those universal injuries or whatever. So it occurs to me that maybe I've been doing the trance in this room where I'm so habituated to doing, I mean, I'm not going to see animals and eagles and stuff, right, when I'm working with somebody. So not usually, I hope. So maybe I'm in the wrong place. You know, maybe I should go down to the storeroom where it's a jumble of stimuli and see what I could get.
Okay.
I guess that's about it.
Give us a try and let us know.
Yeah. Maria, go
There's
ahead.
something about the groove, though. There's something about being in a habitual groove. I see what you mean.
You know, I'm remembering right now what you've said about people that do the meditation where they empty their mind.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
I suspect I'm doing a sort of a like that.
Yeah.
I'm doing a trance where it really has worked for me, and that's what I want to do, and I do it. We'll see.
What Linda's just referring to is that Felicitas Goodman always said that some of the hardest people to teach this method of ecstatic trance postures to were the Zen Buddhists, who every time a thought come up were taught to empty their mind, where ours is a very energetic, very visual, very active experience. Thing. So, interesting observation. We rely on you for those, Linda. Thank you.
And Maria, you wanted to comment?
Yeah.
Yes, I have the explanation how this energy works is a different explanation is given by Rupert Sheldrake.
Yes.
He is a biologist, and he works with morphic fields or morphogenetic fields. This is a very good explanation how it works, really directly, immediately. And it's very interesting. It's much faster than the explanation about electricity and electromagnetic fields.
Right.
Rupert Sheldrake's work is fascinating. I noticed he was in your resource list, and he's also encourages citizen science experiments. Are you the sense of being stared at? Your pet knows when you're even thinking of coming home long before your car alerts him with a sound. Yeah, he does.
Maria had some additional slides with some of the theoretical stuff. Should we go back to that, Maria? That's why I'm asking, yeah.
I have only the resources here. And
you had slides where you were showing the Schumann resonance and some other theories.
The Schumann resonance, yes. And here a different explanation what we tap into. This is Oshman's explanation, like we tap into the electromagnetic field of the Earth, which I think is, I think much broader than how it is explained here. Coming into the crown chakra, down to the through the heart, and out through the hands, and this can be measured. But for me, I think...
Can we show your slides again? Would that be okay? And so that would really help me visualize it. I'm a visual person, so if we could do the slides, I'd really appreciate it. Thank you.
Sorry. I did not share the screen. Sorry for that. Here.
Yes.
Here.
Thank you.
Explanation of the Schumann resonance, and the explanation of the electromagnetic field. He explains that we tap into the electromagnetic field of the Earth and the Schumann resonance, and then we emanate it, we draw it into through the chakras, through the heart, out through the hands, which is one explanation. But for me, my experience is it goes far beyond the Earth, I would say. In Chinese medicine, it's called the qi or life energy. And so that's much more and much faster than this explanation. It is one explanation, but for me,
it's not the whole picture.
The qi is much faster, and the morphic fields are much faster.
I do like the heart being involved because they say, and I've noticed that it's more powerful when there's emotional connection between things, when the heart's involved. And I mean, that's why gratitude is so important as well. It's just on that wavelength.
When I work, I can clearly feel my heart chakra wide open.
Yeah.
And I mean, Chinese medicine says the qi goes where the mind goes. We say the energy follows the mind. It's just, these are just different words, but it is true. And the energy coming in, we are taught having the energy coming in to the heart and out through the hands. That's what it means, heart center. And the heart is much, the energy of the heart is much stronger than the brain energy. And so it was very well said. Christine said it very well, that the brain might be only the receiver and giving out information, but not where the mind actually is. Yeah, there is a lot of research out in energy psychology, the local mind and the non-local mind. Yeah, so that the mind actually is not only in our brain. It's much.
Can we stop the slide so we can see?
Oh, do you have one more slide to show for? She's got slide number 12.
That's only the resources. That's about it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And we have created a page specifically on this, and I put it up on the website, and I'll provide that link as we go along.
Yes, thank you. I saw the website. It's a beautiful job.
Paul does some good work. Yeah, there's so many interesting theories. I just know that we're always out there in the universe in our trance sessions. So we are so connected to the universe in certain ways. And it's like, not that an astrophysicist would necessarily say, that's my understanding of the universe, but we certainly have a personal and direct relationship with the universe and its energy. So I think there's much, much more to that. And then you can sit inside dark energy and dark matter and go, we don't even know what that is. Could that be some form of consciousness that we're all sharing in? Because it just seems that the universe is a teacher in all of these modalities. And Barbie, I know that you and I were talking about that exercise you do about feeling energy between your own hands. I've done that in the park with people, like way over there. You want to describe that?
Yeah, so it would be great if everybody would do it, just to sort of like experience that. So you just sort of take your hands a couple of feet apart, and then as you bring your hands closer together, you can feel the energy. And if you do this, you can feel it expanding and contracting between your hands.
Yeah, it's palpable. It feels like
it's palpable.
Yeah.
You can feel it. Yeah.
So how powerful we are.
I'm going to go back to
the word Reiki actually translates to spiritual or universal life force energy.
And
so
that's what it's all about, isn't it?
Yeah. Channeling the energy and getting out of the way. They teach you to just, if you're sitting there making your grocery list while you're working with someone, the energy has an intelligence of its own, and it will go in in the person's body where it needs to go to do the healing.
There's something about that, extending on that, using acupuncture with the needles, putting the chi in the needles, and moving the chi, like working with the body. Like I'm putting this in, and I'm putting my chi. I try to think of it as universal chi as well, not just me, but playing with that and.
Almost like a focus.
Like a focus, like extraction or a feeding or a healing or I don't know what word, but just kind of giving it, moving it. With intention.
So a robot could not do what you do because you really need the emotional intelligence. And heart. Yeah. Right. It's not just the placing of the needle, it's the whole energetics.
The intention, it's coming from the heart. It's from your experience and with the other person and the relationship that kind of facilitates that.
That's wow. Paul,
we got a couple questions. I'm sorry, go ahead.
Yeah. Who wants to
intention is everything. Your intent is everything.
Can I just go back to something Maria said a second ago?
Yeah.
Real quick, there's a researcher that's out of UNM, University of New Mexico, Rick Schumann. He wrote a book, The DMT Molecule, and he looked and gave people small amounts of DMT, but all his participants really went to that other realm, the other place. And after, based on all of his participants, he had to hypothesize that there is a different reality. And he thinks the brain's like a TV. and it channels. So you turn different channels on, and when you turn on those different channels, it receives information. I've been playing with the idea for a long time, but that idea that there really is something out there on another dimension and that our brains really can shift channels, I think for me, the more I play with that idea, the more sense it makes to me. But that's just me, and that's again Rick Sossman out of UNM. Kind of fitting with what Maria is saying. It fits exactly nice with Dr. Strassman's work. Okay, I'm done. And I think Fred has a question.
Yeah, I was just going to say, I'm going to go to Fred. And after Fred, I go to Hildegard. And then there's a couple of comments I would take from the chat room.
I would also say that maybe part of the trance is that the inner pharmacopoeia creates those molecules, endorphins, beta endorphins, but maybe DMT to help support that state.
Just let me add one more thing. Our brain has opiate receptors, transmitters, and the term opiate comes from our own brain function. So that's something deep within our brain. So we produce our own, if you will, opiates. We can do it ourselves without adding anything. And we
all within.
It's all within there. Yeah.
Yeah. Cool.
I think
Fred.
that's very well known. Yes.
Yes, thank you. I've been watching very attentively to all of this, and it's very interesting. I've also been trained in Reiki and so on. But my question is that, you know, because of the unique shapes and the forms that are taken within Reiki and within really other healing modalities as well, that every disease, every entity, every creature, including, say, a coronavirus, will have its own particular energetics and shape and molecular structure and all of that. And it's possible that one of the reasons for doing trance postures is to kind of replicate these forms, and by doing that we can really understand them and move into them and change them. But I was wondering if, for especially practitioners, but also Christine as well, whether any of you have worked with people with COVID, and to what extent you have had, what kind of observations you can make about both the disease itself and the cultural phenomenon, simply from the energetics that you've been working with.
So one of the guests want to raise your hand. Have you? Okay, Joseph's first.
I don't work in a urgent care situation, so I'm not actively treating patients with COVID that I'm aware of. I mean, we both wear masks. But the Chinese medical approach is to help boost the immune system. Whatever disease, whether it's like a flu, a virus, an infection, an earache, whatever, we approach it as the body biosphere. We're trying to strengthen the immune, or like cancer, for instance. We don't treat cancer, but we can help boost the immune system. So that's how we would approach it, and say if there's a heat going on in the body, we would clear the heat. Or there's phlegm, we'd help dredge the phlegm. We dredge the meridians, or like a pipe. You kind of open the pipe and let the sludge out and move it as it gets stuck. So we'd approach it based on the symptoms, whether it's hot, cold, damp, or the cough, help soothe the lungs, open the lung channel to help the breathing become easier. So we don't approach it. There's no like disease in Chinese medicine. We look at the energetics. We translate it into the energetic terms, so we can. It's a functional medicine. How do we work with it? How do we take it and manipulate it to help patient by patient? So we don't look at the disease per se.
And there's a place for the alternative medicine. There's a place for Western medicine. And if you've got COVID or some urgent care, you're going to Western medicine. You have an emergency situation. Yeah, but good question. Maria, did you have something to add?
Yes. I work from a distance with clients, and what I perceived since COVID, and much earlier than it was acknowledged here in the US, I feel a spike, a really spiky energy far out of the energy field, of human energy fields, especially around the first chakra. And when I go into my trance-like state, I get the image that it looks like a veil, a transparent veil around the first chakra, and with very sharp sparkles in it. They look like golden, very nice, but they feel like needles. And this is the energy I perceive when I treat people with virus conditions. And I don't say it's an illness because it's a condition. And I can comb it out with my techniques. I do a lot of intuitive healing, or what I get through the images, and it can be combed out. So, but I noticed this since I do exclusively distance treatments. And then I thought, oh, months before that, I have felt something, but I didn't pay attention to it. And I went back to my notes, because usually I have my notes like it is required in Healing Touch. And I went through all my notes and tried to feel it. And it was there long before March. It was there in as early as December 2019 in all clients. And the distance out from the body is usually beyond the 7th field. In some clients, it comes into the closer to the body. I had only one client where I felt it in the first energy field, but the client was feeling really tired, feverish, and just not feeling well. But I don't know whether this client got tested or not. And I just combed it out in several sessions. The client felt better afterwards, and the energy was much farther out of the energy field, beyond the 7th field. So what this suggests to me is every living being, every entity has their own energy field, their own morphic field, I would say, and so do viruses. And when I go to a trance-like state, I can clearly see it's far beyond our universe.
Yeah.
So that's my perception. I don't have any scientific.
We have such a long history of this. And as Hoppy says, in ancient Egyptian, Dogon, African perspective, the healer is tapping into a vortex that connects them with the client. So the point is that these are very old traditions, right? This is the first medicine. This is all our early people had, this and herbs maybe that they observed working. So this is so old, but I also think it's the future. I really truly think this is the future of medicine, when we can really document this and validate this on a global perspective. This is it. We'll return. We will marry old and new, like our ancestors. And also animals must also tap into this as well. How is it that animals, once they start to get into our sphere, then they can get sick, I think, with the diet we give them. But animals out there are tapping into something as well. Some balancing, they know, they're tuned out there in the wild. The wild kind of takes care of itself to a large degree. I don't know.
Hildegard's been waiting quite a long time with her hand up. So Hildegard, you'd like to ask your question?
Okay.
There you are.
I just wanted to say this is quite interesting. And one of the things that I got from Frederick's talk the other day was that he said that everything is inside of you. And I thought that was so right on, that we always look outside. We're sending a healing. We can't find things far away, but we are the receivers, and everything is inside of us. So there's this phrase that energy follows thought. And now when I do energy healings, I'm a hands-on healer. I often just know the name of the person, nothing else about them. And I receive information because I ask the ancestors to come and participate in the healing. And I don't only get the names of the people, I get their work, their clothes, I see them. And then when I tell my clients after the healing, oh, there was Pete and there was somebody called Euclid, and I didn't know what Euclid was. And then I find out, oh, Pete was the uncle, and Euclid was the train station where the train ended, where the grandfather worked. And so all this information is inside of me. I see it inside of me, although it is for a person that lives anywhere, and to me, it's amazing that I now can go into a trance state, and I am in the theta level, but I'm equally well in that moment in the beta level, because I can write everything down. So I do the healing and I write it down as it happens so that I don't forget as I go through the trance. When we do the trance in Cuyamonga, I've often thought, oh, I should write the stuff down because I don't quite remember everything when I get out of it and want to write it down. And that's why I started writing it down while I'm doing the healing, and it's fantastic. So these different brain states work at the same time, they're not exclusive. And I find also that sometimes when I go into trance, I go into a really deep trance where where I did not send a thought of what I wanted to do or experience. And then I have other trance states that are quite different. So there seems to be many different levels of trances that you can access. And I found with the work of the Monroe Institute, who have done a lot of brainwave imagery, etc., that they have classified it in focus levels. So from focus level 1 to 15 to 21 to 49, there are different levels in which you have different experiences that, you can go into the afterlife if you're in 21, and you can go into seeing your deceased ancestors in 15, but they're classified different levels of trance. So to me, this is fascinating. The other thing is, I did work with Russell Targ, who is one of the foremost remote viewers, and where you have a picture in an enclosed envelope taken out of a stack of pictures in envelopes, and you can tune into it and figure out what it's going to be even before they give you the envelope, that you already know what it's going to be, and you can make a picture of it, and your jaw drops when you realize, oh yeah, it's the same one, and there's none other that's like that, so
amazing.
Your mind can really go anywhere, so, and it's all inside of us, which fascinates me.
Thank you, Hildegard. Well said. And thank you for jumping
that.
in on
and
the
what
conversation.
Wonderful work that you're doing. That was a beautiful descriptor.
That's a great way of saying it.
Yeah.
There's a lot of comments in the chat room. I'm not going to go through them, but some like Ness Happy's made some really interesting comments.
You're welcome to jump on your microphone.
Tony's made some great comments and questions. Tony, if you want to ask your questions, you can turn on your mic. Ness Happy, you're welcome to ask questions. Anybody's welcome. I
want to quote Brian Tucker, who was talking about the work and has talked about it before here, of an artist who was also under the lab, seen to be in beta and theta at the same time doing his artwork. So that I would say that trance state can offer the flow of creativity and art.
Right.
And Brian describes how he heard ancestors that would inform his art, but also maybe over here to help move some energy to heal, or
Right.
for ourselves, because in ecstatic trance postures, you are the healer and the healee. You are the empty vessel for the spirits to come through with whatever it is that you need.
Right.
Maybe stuff you don't even know.
Right.
I mean, it's beautiful to be able to direct it. I want to go here, I want to go there. It's also beautiful just to receive what it is that you need at that moment as well. Beyond what you know for yourself that you want to do.
I mean,
so there's so many modalities to use this. It's just
and most of these things
like
fall,
a kaleidoscope. Where do you know? What do you want? Which, yeah. Go ahead.
and most of these things fall under a category that people refer to as New Age, even though everything to do with it's got nothing to do
Old
with
age.
new. Yeah.
Yeah.
Some of the stuff is new,
Age
which is
old.
not so great, but
Yeah.
the stuff that has its roots.
Well, it's endured.
Like Fred shared with us last week.
endured.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, that's what we're talking. Did you want to share something, Tony?
Yeah, sure. Thank you very much. I love the way Brian mentioned art, and I'll just relay a little experience sitting in a Kurd restaurant in Edinburgh. And when I travel, I paint, and I did a painting, and the owner came over and said, "You've just painted the Kurd flag." I had no idea what the Kurd flag was. But when I do paint, it is like a trance state. It's kind of like every brushstroke is informed. Any word I put on it is informed. And so I like that. One of the things I find so fascinating, not as a denier, but as one who looks at the world from the point of view of signal and noise, that some of these phenomena, you would think there would be a lot of noise. And yet, and perhaps there is, I'm actually curious what the speakers say about how they separate true impressions from maybe specious ones. But I will say in my own experience, I've known things I have no way of knowing, sometimes at great distance. And so I'm not denying this, I'm just very interested in the phenomena. And if I was to reduce this to a scientific analysis, I would have to look in some way at the filter mechanism, not just that there are signals. I believe that, but there is a mechanism that takes away the noise, takes away the destructive elements, and gives us a sense of truth. So that's kind of my question that I would ask, and I'd love to hear what the speakers have to say about it, what you all have to say about it.
Oh, okay.
That's a good question. Thank you, Tony. That's a good observation.
Joseph, you want to go first?
Sure. Oftentimes when I say something to a patient that I know is true, I feel tingling sensations down my legs. And it only happens when I'm talking about something and I go, okay, this what I'm saying is right on. And it happens consistently enough over the years, so I know it's not me making it up. So that's how I would address that question from Tony.
Thank you.
My
Maria?
body talks.
Yeah.
Our bodies talk to us, communicate.
Me too.
I didn't hear your last comment, Joseph. Go ahead.
Our bodies communicate through us, and we just have to tune in. I guess it's a trance thing as well. Just
Well, listen,
Bodies talk to us, body wisdom.
Yeah. I believe what you're saying, and that makes every bit of sense to me. But somehow there's something that is filtering out the false signals and letting us know directly. And that's part of what I'm trying to get at.
I feel like it's a bond. Part of it, I think Maria talked about this and Barbie too. It's a bond we create with our patient when we're being present. We're called to be present right there with them. And that presence is what you could call it God, you could call it creation, you could call whatever spirit. I think it's that interaction between the patient and the practitioner, whether they're in the same room or across the world. There is some sort of connection that happens, and that's the truism. That's what I believe.
Like a tuning fork, maybe?
That helps, but I would say there must be then something that makes us impenetrable, and I'm curious about what that is.
The monkey mind.
Not a good answer.
That's what we battle in our work too.
Monkey mind is that we believe that we're stuck in concrete, where that's not the reality. We're not. We are, multidimensional beings.
Yes, but what about something leaking in? Even though we have this spiritual connection, what about something else leaking in?
Like what do you mean? Like a bad thought or
something that pertains to somebody else? Let's say you're doing a healing, and somebody is in the next room and they have a very powerful signal, could that leak into yours?
I think that's a total possibility. I mean, if you're open to that, there may be something, the next patient, oh, I got an idea for so-and-so who's coming to see me next. I may be part of that. I think it's just being open.
Yeah, so I'm not being a doubter. I'm just trying to get at what is this that makes it so, so clear.
Data.
Part of their ritual, they all have a ritual, so maybe that helps close off the space.
Yeah, the ritual would, but how?
Clearing the channel.
What closes the space? What is the actual mechanism that closes?
I think its intention is the first and foremost, the power of intention. Like I'm talking to you right now. I'm tuning into Tony. I get the message.
Okay, yeah, very good.
I went to green chili.
And yeah, and Tony, your hair is kind of standing up. You're looking more and more like Einstein every day.
Yeah, I'm getting the signal.
That's the look. You know, that's yeah. Yeah. Maria, you had something to say.
Oh, Barbie had her hand up too.
Okay.
Tony, thank you for your question, because this is a really good question. I struggled years to filter out what is wishful thinking, what is coming from outside noise, and what is actually really what needs to be done right now. I can't say I have a tingling here or a tingling there. I just know it. It's just a direct knowing, because the primary thing is being honest with yourself. Being honest, okay, this is my visual thinking. And this is not, know that this is not my visual thinking, what is coming in. But the other question you had is there somebody else tuning in? That's a good question. It can be a spirit. It can be something else. But what I do in my work is I create a space that is safe. And I do a lot of protection around myself. And I know how to do it. Over the many years I have worked on it. And I just know it is outside noise from something else that shouldn't be here. And I know this is what comes through. I also work with my spiritual guides, or call them guardian angel or whatever. I don't think they care what you call them, but I work with my guardian angel, with my protectors, and with the guardian angels from the client. Both need to be there. And I can only say I know it directly, and I have learned how to be very honest, brutally honest with myself. That's the first step.
Well, thank you. And
does this satisfy your question?
Well, no, not at all. But it's totally wonderful at the same time. You know, my question, I mean, there are ways to do this. There's something very interesting in what happens to make this. And I love the way you say the things you do to purify yourself, bringing in guardians, all that. This is perfect. And I've also experienced things that I've known where it's unambiguous. And so I'm a total believer, but I'm trying to figure out how this happens when there is so much noise around, how it's so pure.
Well, for this, I don't have an explanation how. I know it does. And maybe the brain receiver, maybe there is something else that receives and knows how to receive. Because I work with a very open heart chakra. And I think the heart chakra is a pretty good filter also. That's my perception. But it can be completely different for other people.
I would also say that you learn to distinguish the still small voice within from other voices over time, because you get feedback and you just, there's a certain feeling around it. Yeah. There's a certain calm and serenity and uplift and angelic vibe to that still small voice when you get that, it feels different.
Laura, yes, we know, and I totally agree with that. But I'm so curious about how this happens when there are so many people on this earth and so many people around and so many people who have needs and the animals and all the other spirits, but somehow we get something that's very pure and unambiguous. So we know, but the question is, how can it be so pure? And the how is the how. This is the sickness of a scientist. What is the how?
Yeah, Joseph explained it that we really focus on this particular person, and the energy goes where your focus is, where your mind goes. And the space you create in a treatment session is also a protection, and the focus is, the intention is only what the highest good for this client.
Yes,
Yeah.
the highest good, exactly.
The highest good.
Yeah.
Yeah. You have to set the intention first.
That's a good point.
And we do call ourselves practitioners for a reason.
Right.
Doing it and refining it and refining it.
And Barbie had her hand up as well. Barbie, you want to jump in?
Yeah.
Yeah, so I'm also not going to answer your question, Tony.
A good one.
But what I know is similar, similarly to Joseph and Maria, I always set the intention. I think it's so huge, and it's not optional. You have to set the intention, be in the present moment, ask for only the highest good, set protection around the space, ask for my guides and my clients' guides to all be there to protect us, and then just get out of the way. And for me, the messages that I get, it's the difference between thinking and knowing. When you're thinking, you're constructing a thought, So I'm going to have this red block, and it's going to have this blue block on top of it, and then a yellow, you're adding on to it, and you're constructing a thought. The knowing just pops in or just slides in. And typically, Tony, it means nothing to me. It's not anything that I ever would have thought of. It's not, a name I'm familiar with, or a place or a person. It means nothing to me, and I always have an argument with myself. Did I just make that up? Should I say that to them? Should I not say that to them? And I say it because I know that that's what I'm supposed to do, and it inevitably means something to the person that I'm working with.
Well, I know this. I know exactly what you're talking about, and I love it. And it is a knowing, and I think it's fascinating. That's a big reason why I'm here. I want to know more about it.
Well, could you say that with the fiber optic, you've got a gazillion data streams going through, but when we pick up the phone or we tune into our computer, we just get the one signal we're tuned to? So maybe it goes back to what Christine was saying, frequencies. We can very specifically write a frequency, there's many other around us. We're just tuned into the one frequency. I don't know, an energetic analogy.
That's what I wanted to add for Tony. If he wants a new fancy T-shirt, he's going to Google cool T-shirt, and he's going to expect that's what's going to come up on his computer. It's the same thing that we're doing. We're Googling putting the information in. And if you got some other weird thing, you're like, wait, that's not what I wanted. Power of intention.
Well, we only have a couple minutes left, and I just really want to thank you all for coming, for participating. We've had a very large crowd. There's tons of questions that didn't get answered, I'm sure, but there's also tons of people commenting with more information, wanting to share. I'm sure everybody wants to tell.
Do you want to just go through and read a little bit of it?
No, it's
I want to acknowledge everybody.
I will acknowledge, but it's too much. To sit here and read all this, but I want to say.
Oh, you could read quick.
But following up on the topic about being able to have that focus and not have the outside elements affecting you. I thought it was interesting because years ago, Laura and I did an interview and spent time with Ipu Piara, who was Piara, who is an Amazon shaman who worked with the Uru Wadawa tribe. And he was an anthropologist who taught at the Smithsonian. So he was not just your everyday, he was a pretty sharp character.
He had a foot in both worlds.
He had his foot in both worlds. Yeah. And we would talk to him about this stuff. And he would say, he says, listen, when we do ritual, we don't try to do, this is a Western idea of ritual, that we have to have this sacred, quiet space, separated out from everything with closed doors. We do our rituals at the dining room table. The grandchildren are running between our legs. There's noise. There's people are cooking meals. The dogs are barking. That doesn't impact our intention, our ability to hold space, our ability to stay clear and focused on our experience. And I don't, like everything else, Tony, it doesn't have anything to do with the question probably, but I wanted to say
there's noise around you and you can still maintain your signal, your clear signal.
That's what I was trying to add. Yeah. That's what I was trying to add.
He also had us run our hands. We're not healers, right? We were running our hands over somebody and you could feel texture, bumpy or spiky or smooth or cold or hot, just running your hands over, because he gave us permission to feel. I don't know. It was fascinating.
He was quite the character.
Yeah.
Amazing.
So, yeah, he's quite the teacher.
Yeah.
So,
well,
interesting.
I would love.
I want to hear everybody's chat.
I know Laura wants me to read for the next hour and a half because she just loves these kinds of conversations. This is what makes her tick. And Laura did this nasty syndicated radio show. She did this kind of thing.
This is even better.
All the time.
Yeah.
And it was for years. And we did
3,000
interviews.
And mentioned.
So it's been fun. So people asking questions and other people are answering in the chat room. Judy just answered the question. Linda Grace
we'll
had
hear
a comment.
from Judy on the 29th.
Yeah, Judy's coming up on the 29th. That's right. And then Brian is always clever and insightful. Is the pureness that you're talking about related to energy of love?
It's all love.
Yeah.
It's all love.
I'll answer that question. Yes. Next question.
Thank you.
TH says Deepak Chopra has talked about dropping into the gap where information is available to you that you can't in a noisy world.
That's a good description. Dropping into the gap, into the void.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And now we're quoting Deepak.
Well, I just want to say that thank you all to our panelists, Maria and Barbie and Joseph and Christine, and all of our community here today. It's been a wonderful conversation because, this stuff works at a distance. Hands-on healing, Reiki works at a distance. I guess you actually do have to stick the needle into somebody to do acupuncture, Joseph. But what we're tapping into is that there's a much more magical, vibrant, living world out there than our intellect is ready to accept, but we are certainly experiencing in so many ways. With Ecstatic Trance Postures, we love this work. So many of you have indicated the work that you did, like Hildegard, hands-on healing, and so many of you have got these modalities. We're just one little lane. We are one little lane in a broad spectrum. So I want to honor all of the rich gifts and modalities and techniques and research and experiences that you've all had. And that thank you for joining in this conversation with us today to explore we're really asking, what is the nature of reality? What's going on here? What is our true capacity? And I think that all of us in this community are pushing the seams of the envelope here and living it and loving it and sharing it. And it's an exciting time to be alive. It's an exciting time to be alive.
Thank
you for our hardware technology where we can have this conversation over Zoom and the internet.
And we thank you all, the volunteers and the donors that have supported this work and it keeps this thing going, and we appreciate all of that. Christine, you've inspired me. You keep she keeps quoting from What About Demons? And the title of that book kind of throws people off sometimes, but the data, it's true research by Goodman.
Christine, you have to come on and just encourage people to.
I'd like to be able to do a revised, smaller edition for us non-scientific people that want to see, get to the core of it, because it's so complementary to who Felicitas was. So anyway.
She wrote the book about ecstatic trance and possession trance and showing the difference between the two. Christine, anything you want to say about that book?
Yes, I think she has some answers for Tony in that book, and that's what I was getting to. But we can have that conversation another time, Tony.
Let's do that.
Okay, Tony.
I think she does.
Yeah.
So Felicitas Goodman, how about demons, and also Where the Spirits Ride the Wind? Really talk about this work in trance and how normal and natural and for everyone these states are, not just for the mystics, for us all. So
and at our website, energy medicine, that this is right in on the website, so you can see all the links that Maria offered are at the bottom of the page, so that everything's available to you. And of course, contacting.
And books. So Barbie, add your book and all of this. And coming up, we've got gratitude as a spiritual and a brain health exercise for next Sunday. We're going to ask you, what are you grateful about? Paul will lead us in a ritual for that as well. And then the Sunday after, Judy Lemon will share with us the power of sound and song, and also stories of her work with a shaman in Latin America. So lots of great stuff coming up, lots of good discussions.
Perfect.
So that'll fill out November.
Well, thank you all for coming. I'm going to go ahead and unmute everybody. It's going to be a cacophony of sound. It's okay, but say goodbye
Signal
to
in the noise, Tony.
You know,
Signal
when
in the noise.
when we're at the institute, we always do hug goodbye.
Thank you. Maria, Barbie, Chris.
Yeah, Barbie, thank you.
Joseph, thank you. Beautiful.
Thank you for the
Thanks, everyone.
Thanks, everybody.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye, Carolyn. Bye, Carolyn.
Thank you, everyone.
Hey, guys.
Bye-bye.
Have a great day, everybody.
Bye, Pat.
Bye.
EJ.
Was a great discussion.
Bye, guys.
Fred.
Thank you.
Oh,
Bye-bye.
hey, Charlie. All
Hey,
right.
Charlie. Good to see you, Charlie.
Look at that cosmic picture in the background.
Yeah, that's right.
What a wealth of knowledge. What a vibrant community we have. So much knowledge base here and experience.
Very cool. Okay.
So,
I
keep saying goodbye, or he's going to shut you off. I want to hear all your goodbyes.
Goodbye.
Bye.
Bye.
Thanks,
Thank you.
everybody.
Be grateful for crying out loud.